For USCFootball.com, I'm Connor Morrissette. This is Chris Trevino. We're coming to you after a thrilling 35-31 come-from-behind Las Vegas Bowl win for USC over Texas A&M. Chris, so much to get to after this game. USC ends the year 7-6. They end the year with a big win, something that people should get excited about. That's a game being down 24-7 where people should be excited. I mean, I didn't think USC had any shot to come back and win this game when they were down 24-7 in the third quarter. Let's begin there. Down by 3 scores in the third quarter. I thought they were cooked, and they come back. They fought so hard all season, but I just thought that would be too much for them. It wasn't. What did you see when they were down 24-7 on the sideline? It sounded like you saw a team that didn't quit.
I'm still trying to process everything that happened, but yeah, you're down 24-7. It looks really bleak, and I will admit, I'll put it in my Ghost Notes game day, but the energy wasn't there. But there was just something about the defense that there was still some spark there. And we'll talk about the defense more in detail a little bit later, but they were really the key behind that comeback, letting the offense get 21 straight unanswered points. But the defense believed, right before they went in for that one of those key drives, they were like, we're still in this. So that's what it's like on the football field. That's what it's like on the sidelines. Just if you just keep believing, you're down to your last poker chip. You still have a chance. And USC showed, they have fight, and they've been doing that all season with the close losses and close games and battling back. And again, we didn't really know how this one was going to go, but in the end, USC moves to 2-0 in Las Vegas in 2024 and 2-0 against the SEC.
And a big part of this comeback, of course, was the defense. But I look at Jaden Maiava, who, let's call it for what it was. I mean, he had 6 completions in the first half. He had 3 interceptions. He had a lousy game up until he turned it around and played really well. I think Shotgun tweeted out that he was 8 of 9 on the final drive for USC. He is so high and so low. Like, the variance with him is crazy, but he ended on a high note today, and I don't know what this means for next season. I don't anticipate USC going to get a transfer quarterback, but like his lows, man, they're low, but USC overcame it tonight. And it's tough to take too much away from a bowl win, of course. I think we all learned our lesson last season after the Holiday Bowl that just because something happens in one game doesn't mean you can extrapolate it out to next season. But I think it's really important that Maiava didn't totally combust and just go on to throw 5 picks and lose this game single-handedly for USC, because that's the way it looked like it was going to go. But he bounced back, and look, quarterbacks, they're not going to be perfect, of course, every time, but the resilience of that position is so important. And I think we know that Maiava, he's going to be the volatility with him is going to be high, but he's never going to quit. He's a resilient guy, and that's something I think we can take into next season, and that's a good thing.
Boomer bust, and this is something we talked about him. We know when he was inserted as the starter, for Miller Moss late there in the year, you're going to get some highs, but you're going to get some lows, and you got the full range here today with Jaden Maiava. So yeah, I don't really know what it means for next season, because obviously ending on a win, dramatic win like that, get that confidence going into next season. I feel like he's going to be the guy next year for 2025. We'll see what they do in the transfer portal. I can't imagine they're not going to kick around the transfer portal a little bit, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, just throughout that game, there are points where you're like, Jaden is really off right now. His confidence is not there. But hey, like you said, the resiliency, having a short memory, he throws 3 interceptions, but also throws the game winner, and that's kind of what it is about being a quarterback. You make some bad plays, you make some bad throws, but if you lead your team down when they need it the most, and they obviously need it the most there in that final drive, you're still the hero in the end. And I think Jaden proved a lot. Still hasn't shown, maybe he's the true guy for next year, but I think he's going to have the shot in 2025, and it just is so nice for him to be able to end on a high note with a win in a drive like that in a game where, he wasn't his best.
These bowl games, they're almost like the first game of next season. Lincoln Riley's talked a lot about that. And I maintain what I said coming into this game. I think Jaden Maiava is the starter going into next season with a very high ceiling backup in Hassan Longstreet. That's a pretty good room. And Maiava, he was not great at times tonight, but like the hope with that 5-star guy behind him, you hope that can push him a little bit. And then if it goes really south, then you have a true freshman. It's not ideal to play them, but we've seen in college football, true freshmen can come in and have success. So I think USC should stick with that plan of getting a 3rd-string guy, getting that Jake Jensen replacement, and rolling with those 2 guys next season. But I think it's going to be a long offseason, Chris, so people debating Jaden Maiava and whether he is the guy and he will be the starter for our for all 12 games, because I think it's certainly possible next season rolls around and there's a Miller-Moss situation where if Maeva just isn't getting it done, Hassan Longstreet will come in because he gives USC a better chance to win if Maeva continues with these turnovers.
It's very interesting because last year, we only do bowl game instance, but last year talking about all offseason was Miller-Moss is the guy. 6 touchdowns, USC gonna win it all next year. Miller-Moss is the guy. They love him. They do it. Now we're coming in here. It's like, is Jaden Maeva the guy? It's just so funny how different off seasons bring different questions. And for the second year in a row, USC has a talking point about its quarterback for next season. And yeah, I think Jaden can still. Obviously, he's still young and he's still learning Lincoln Riley's offense. Remember, this is his first year. He ran a completely different offense at UNLV. So there's still a lot of growth potential for him. You've seen the ceiling, you've seen the floor with him, but if you get it a little bit higher that floor, then I think he could be really good. But we'll see. It's going to be a long offseason for everyone involved, us, USC, and Jaden, as he goes into 2025 as being possibly QB1 for another year.
So much to talk about in this game. I think last year, Chris, when he did Instant, it was all about Miller-Moss, of course, but it was about Jacoby Lane and the young receivers taking that step forward and some of the young guys on defense and Elijah Page at left tackle. You felt good about him. Tonight, I think, was more about the old guys, and we'll get to some of the young guys on the offensive line. They played well. I don't want to neglect them, but Kyle Ford with the game-winning touchdown. We have to give him his flowers, and to see him so emotional after that catch, how can you not smile and be so happy for him? That's a great story. Achille Arnold gets an interception. Easton Mascarenas Arnold in his last game, I thought, had a really nice evening. Eric Gentry comes back. You saw John Humphrey. You saw DeCarlos Nicholson. This was a game for some of the older players on USC's roster to say, hey, this year didn't go the way we wanted it to, but we never quit. And this is something that when you look back at USC football in 2024, there's the LSU win, and now there's something else, another highlight. So that's something that, again, it's not the season that everyone had hoped, especially after USC beat LSU, but I want to tip my cap to some of the older players after this win, because it could have been real easy for those guys to go in the tank and say, hey, what do we have to play for? We're not going to go anywhere this season. But they kept fighting, and they were rewarded tonight. And a team with a worse culture than USC definitely doesn't come back from 24-7 down, and I think that had a lot to do with the older guys.
Yeah, and I just want to start with Kyle Ford, just somebody that I've covered for a long time. I still have a vivid memory of him catching at a passing tournament. I think he was like a sophomore, big play down the field, and that's when it was like, Kyle Ford is now on the scene. Former 5-star, what he did at the opening, had the knee injuries, went to USC, didn't quite, pop as a 5-star, went in the transfer portal, went to UCLA, by his own account, wasn't really jiving with it, decided to come back to USC, be part of the team again, and just to have, right here, we're standing right here, you can see it in the camera where he scored his game-winning touchdown to put him up 35-31, just chills, goosebumps. It couldn't have been any more perfect for a player like Kyle Ford and all he's gone through and just how much he loves being a Trojan, to be able to end his career with a game-winning touchdown. And you saw the emotion. I posted a video of him, on the sideline. Everyone was hugging up Kyle Ford. Him and Jaden had the biggest hug down there. He's, he was the man in that moment. And, just to have him drop to his knees and start crying. He was crying in that moment when he caught the ball. And just an awesome ending, not a great season, but just an awesome ending for Kyle Ford, who, a true Trojan through and through, even though he was a 1 year for a Bruin, but it's okay. It's okay. I think a lot of USC fans forgive him, but yeah, just an incredible end for him and, all those older guys that you mentioned.
Believe it or not, Chris, only 3 receivers caught passes from Jaden Maeva tonight. Kyle Ford, of course, one of them, but we have to talk about Jacoby Lane. 7 catches, 127 yards, 3 touchdowns. Mekhi Lemon, I believe he had 6 catches for 99 yards. So Zachariah Branch goes into the portal. Deuce Robinson goes into the portal. Kyron Hudson goes into the portal. I don't know for sure if USC will be totally fine next season at receiver, but you have to feel really good about Lane and Lemon. Those guys look like they could be 2 1,000-yard guys heading into next year, 2 alphas, 2 pillars. You got to feel good about them after this game. 2
alphas, I like that. We need a new nickname for Jacoby Lane and Lemon as a duo, because I tweeted out just before we went on Instant, they could be one of the best duos in the country next season in terms of wide receiver. So you have, Mekhi Lemon, that little tiny dog, and then you have the 6'5" dog in Jacoby Lane, 3 touchdown receptions. That's 6 in his last 2 games, 3 against Notre Dame. A couple of those were in garbage time, but still.
6 in the last 2.
6 in the last 2. A dozen on the year, leads the team among the top in the Big Ten. So it wasn't quite the season for them, throughout the entire year, but for them to end on a huge note, you saw the playmaking ability. This was a huge playmaking game. Like, look what we can do as like the number one guys giving us all the reps. We know the rotation they had throughout the season. I know it frustrated a lot of fans. It frustrated, some of the wide receivers. But this game, they went out and just said, hey, number 8, number 6, little Kyle Ford in there, and let's see what we can make. And obviously you saw what it could be, a really special group. And yeah, Jacoby Lane, ceiling so high. Makai Lemon, ceiling so high. It's all there, and just be able to put it on display in this bowl game. A year from now, what we saw in the Holiday Bowl, you saw the Makai Lemon flash, you saw the Jacoby Lane flash with his 2 touchdown catches. Now for them to put it all together in a bowl game like this, and a epic bowl game performance for both of them, especially Lane, so impressive. And I believe Lane won the MVP for the Las Vegas Bowl.
That's what's so impressive, and I think something that we can take away definitively, where it was hard to do that last season, where like we all thought Miller Moss always going to go on and do great things. I think because of how long Lemon and Lane have had this success now, they were clearly the 2 best receivers this year. I think that's safe to say, and they had the success last year in the Holiday Bowl, so they've done this for over a calendar year. It's not crazy to say that they could both be 1,000-yard guys next season because of the success that they've had in the past. It's not just a one-off like we saw with some other players in that bowl game last season. So I think that's something that USC fans have to feel really good about heading into next year. And man, those guys were just awesome tonight. Lane especially really impressed me. He was unguardable at times. What a great player he is. He's someone who USC prioritized, and they really worked hard to keep. You can never say never. The portal will close tomorrow, so I don't hope
today.
I guess it's already that time.
This is a 2-day incident.
I hope we don't get burned talking about him, but it looks like he's going to stick around, which is encouraging. A few other things I want to get to, Chris. I know we're running long. The offensive line: Elijah Page goes out, Jonah Mondenheim opts out, so Killian O'Connor's in at center, Justin Tawanu's in at left tackle. At right tackle, you have Tobias Raymond in for Mason Murphy, who transfers to Auburn. So USC was undermanned at every position but the guard spots. Page went down really early in this game, and I felt like, yes, Texas A&M, their 3 best defensive players didn't play, defensive linemen didn't play, but this offensive line, it could have been a lot worse. It was good. I didn't think it was bad. I thought they were solid, and that's something else I think you can be encouraged by heading into next season. Justin Tawanu answered the bell tonight. He did a really nice job.
Very quickly, who are we giving credit to, Josh Henson or Zach Hanson?
Both. I think Josh Henson for the majority of the season, but Zach Hanson had the guys ready to go tonight too, so tip of the cap to him too.
Yeah, I mean, losing Page, it's a big uh-oh moment for a lot of people on the sidelines when I'm down here. It's like, oh no, because as you said, it's so thin down there. And Justin, true freshman, I didn't really know what to expect out of him. I knew he needed more development, but he came in and played like a rock star considering the circumstances. At left tackle, the toughest position for him to be thrown into against an SEC defensive lineman. As you mentioned, they were out some of their big dogs, but still, that is a tough assignment for anyone to do. And yeah, you like the development you saw. You liked what that group brought, and it's going to be an interesting group next year. I still think they need to bring in some portal help. I hope they are not stubborn like they were last year and did not touch the portal when it came to offensive linemen. They need to fill out that ranks tenfold across the board, because you had 2 preferred walk-ons as your starting center and your backup center. Killian O'Connor maybe played himself into a scholarship for next season, but still,
I hope so.
You need a center. You need more guards. You need another veteran tackle, because Elijah Page, I think, is going to be good next year. Tobias Raymond still growing as a right tackle, but again, they rocked it out of the park considering all the context surrounding their opt-outs and their depth issues and their transfers across the board. Justin Tawanu, gold star in my book.
Let's end with looking ahead to next season, because I think we can both agree, Chris, this game, it does a little bit to make me feel better about next season, but we both learned our lesson from the Holiday Bowl last year. You can't have these big takeaways after one bowl game, especially when the rosters are so turned over. In A&M, they didn't have 30 scholarship guys. I think their 3 top defensive players, all on the defensive line, didn't play. So winning when you're down 24-7, that's real, and that's something that USC should be applauded for. But again, they have a lot of work to do, and it was downright bad on both sides of the ball for a few moments here tonight. So again, a ton of credit they deserve for coming back the way they did, and this is a really good win, a good story. But let's look ahead to next season. Quarterback position, a little bit of a question mark. They have holes on the offensive line. They need some depth pieces at receiver. The tight ends, like McCree comes back, you hope those young guys can take a step forward, but that's a question mark a little bit. Do you have a breakout tight end? Looking at the running back spot, they're bringing in a transfer, Eli Sanders, from New Mexico, but that room is thin. They still have some work to do there. Defensively, they've done a nice job to shore up the middle of that defensive line from the transfer portal, with Keyshawn Silver and Jamal Jarrett, but I'd like to see them bring in an edge rusher. They need to bring in one linebacker. I'd like them to bring in two. They need to bring in a few people in the secondary. I have some questions about Lincoln Riley as a coach, I think, as everyone does after this game. That first half was brutal. So how do you feel heading into next season? I think there's some things that fans should be excited about and are excited about, and I understand that, but I still think this is a huge offseason, and for USC only to have 4 transfer portal additions right now, they got to add more guys. They have some question marks at some coaching spots. They got to bring in a linebacker coach, a tight end coach. They were close this year, but at the end of the day, they're 7-6, close in every game just about outside of the end of Notre Dame, and in that one they were close. I just feel like they need to do a lot to get to where we think they can be, which is, a 9-3 perennial team. And if you have a great year, be in the college football playoff. Let's see what happens. But right now, I feel like they're still pretty far away from the playoff.
Yeah, I mean, you're really close to being, that 9-win, 10-win, maybe being in the playoff hunt. With these close losses. How do you get to here?
Yeah.
How do you get to there? How do they make that jump? How do they make up that distance from the close losses they had this year and just being able to finish more? I think the big thing is the heart of the team, that fight. They displayed it all season, and, tip of the cap to the defense. I tweeted it out, say what you will about the defense, but they kept them in every game this year. They never quit. When things were backed up against them, they were deficient in some areas. They were hamstrung. They didn't have enough playmakers, but they still fought with the guys that they had, and I think we should tip our caps to the defense and the work, Danton Lynn and that defensive staff did in 2024. And I'm looking at the defense as kind of my cherry for next season. That's the thing I'm really excited about. I think you should be excited about as a USC fan. Obviously, they have holes to fill, secondary, but you got Kamar Ramsey coming back. That's huge. You have Eric Gentry coming back. That's a playmaker. You got 2 massive defensive tackles who combined weight is close to 700 pounds. You didn't have those guys in 2024. Let's see what that looks like in 2025. Now that you got some big beef in the middle. You got Thanos coming. Now, again, he's just a freshman, but you got him. You got 2 really young, talented edge rushers in Cameron Fountain and Braylon Shelby. You got a lot to build around. You got Anthony Lucas coming back. You have a lot of great things going on with your defense, but yeah, you need some linebacker help. You need a lot of secondary help in the quarterbacks. I don't know who their number 1 corner is going to be. It's someone not on the roster right now. So, all that being said, I'm really excited about what the defense and Danton Lynn's going to do in year 2. I think that's where you're going to build. I think you're really going to see that identity really flourish as a much, much better defense, a much better pass rushing team, a much better playmaking defense. Now, offense, yeah, there's a lot of more question marks than on defense, but I don't know. It's really tough. I think your defense is going to have to be your calling card because we don't know what Jaden's going to do. We know you got 2 really good receivers. What happens at running back? Do you have a running back 1? I thought Brian Jackson was really good in this game. He showed a lot as a freshman. Is he RB1? I don't think so, not yet, but he could be a really nice complement next season. Is Eli Sanders RB1, the New Mexico transfer they picked up?
Probably right now.
Yeah, right now, but I still think they're going to go and look for another guy. I think they're really going to go for another home run guy to be their guy. So, offensive line, if you take care of the offensive line like they're doing with the trenches on the defensive side of the ball, getting, 2 big defensive tackles, if you get some more interior guys, another tackle experience, I feel really good. I think they're going to build off what they did in 2024, and that's all you can ask for. Again, they didn't get blown out. Don't want to talk about the Notre Dame game, but they were right there on the doorstep. 2 pick sixes back-to-back, yes, backbreaking. But they were in every game. They could have won against Michigan. They could have beat Penn State. They should have beat Maryland. They should have beat Minnesota. That's 4 games right there, and we could be talking about a very different team. We could be talking about a New York Six Bowl right now. So whatever happens next season, I think there's a lot of good things, but there's still some things they need to answer. Lincoln Riley has to do a little bit of soul searching, run the ball more, be more efficient as a play caller. It's not going to be a perfect season next year, but I think there's some good things you should be excited about, and just ending on a win, gives you a little more optimism.
Yeah, 2-0 against the SEC this season. If you had told us that to begin the year, I think we all would have thought, what can this team do? They're going to have a special season. So definitely some things to build on, but hey, 4-5 in the Big Ten. I hope that the coaching staff learns some lessons about how to win in the Big Ten with some of how games get officiated, stopping the run, all that good stuff.
Win on the road.
Yeah, win on the road. It's going to be a long off season ahead, but I think that's enough. We'll have plenty of time to dissect all of it. USC, of course, will add a few more guys from the transfer portal, so we'll keep you up to speed over at uscfootball.com. But Chris, we're celebrating a 35-31 win in the Las Vegas Bowl. USC over Texas A&M. Go celebrate tonight, USC fans. Have a big night. It's been a up and down season, but tonight the team had a really nice performance, and they deserve to be celebrated. He's Chris Trevino. I'm Connor Morrissette. We'll see you next time.